meeting. Now, the first thing, in a signal to China, Modi says Quad not against anyone but here to stay. Now, you must be aware that a meeting has taken place in Delaware, and there is a specific name to this meeting. I'll just let you know what is the name of the summit meeting. And the summit is there at the in the hometown of the president of US. Now, what has happened is that first of all, you should be aware that Quad is a platform where India is the only non-US ally. Now, you need to understand the differences between an ally and a non-ally. So, we do not have a military kind of an agreement. Neither are we a part of NATO. So we are a country which is a non NATO country, and we are not a military ally of US. At the same point of time, we believe in multilateralism, and we also believe in the fact that there should be open trade. There should not be anyone who dominates within any particular area of the world, and no country should be dominated on. So these are the frameworks. Typically, NATO was initially this Quad was initially being touted as an Asian NATO. It was said that it will basically tie India down. It will become an Asian NATO, but what it does is it has a light touch on security issues. Yes, one of the focal points of Quad is security issues. We talk a lot about Indo-Pacific security. We talk a lot about China. We also talk about a lot of how to counter the aggression of China. But at the same point of time, it has a soft touch on security, but it also considers other major issues. So yes, glue is basically the Chinese factor, but also addressing other wars like in that of Europe and West Asia, combating cancer. So we will see that there are a number of agreements that have been signed, not just with respect to this, but also with respect to say sharing of information, technology, medical sciences. So it's much more dynamic, and and as Biden says, the ties are much closer, and even the India US ties are much more dynamic than ever. So we have an editorial on this. Let's read that editorial, and then we'll move forward with respect to this. Now, if you see Quad's light touch, so it has avoided being branded as an Asian NATO. Smallness of agenda does not mean achievements are inconsequential. Yes, we are limited to certain few things. It's not as big as ASEAN, which deals with primarily a trade-based meeting or trade-based bloc. At the same point of time, it is not also very focused like AUKUS, which is the US and UK and Australia forum, where it is exclusively focusing on military. So we have this kind of setting, and India has been always been reluctant to join any kind of military alliance, because that gives India a lot of that power of being multi-aligned. So India also sees China as an ally in quite a few areas. So we have that checkered relationship with China, where it is an adversary in a lot of areas of world affairs. It is also a competitor in a lot of areas, and it is also a collaborator, and it also a partner in certain areas. So this is how world trade or world relations happen, and you have this Wilmington consensus. So you can write this down as Wilmington consensus in Delaware, where you had a lot of these range of agreements, from cervical cancer to cooperation on cyber security to joint program on Indo-Pacific, to creation on air logistics. So all quantum computing, biotechnology, these are all areas. They are also given in one of the pages. I'll show it to you, that you need to read. Then as I told you that that India is the only non-ally in this US forum, and which gives us this forum, that entity, that someone from global south is also being represented on this forum. And then you have issues with respect to aggressiveness of China, where you have multiple areas where they're being aggressive. And what is important is that US also understand, and it has been spoken up by the president of US on the hot mic, that what Xi Jinping is trying to do right now is, he's trying to buy himself some time for domestic space. As you might be aware that domestically the country is struggling a lot. Chinese economy is struggling a lot, under a lot of debt and a lot of housing crisis, and therefore right now they're basically buying some time. And this is where India also needs to step up its own game, and then engage with the Chinese on multiple forums. In fact, you might have read last week that a lot of issues with respect to India-China border have now been discussed and deliberated upon, and there is only around 20-30% where we still have that negotiation that is still left. So this is this Quad, and then the entire discussion on Quad needs to be read in detail. Also try to compare these regional forums. For example, you should be aware of how is Quad different from say BRICS, how is BRICS different from SCO, and then how is SCO different from I2U2. So these are different forums. These are small multilateral forums that we are all part of, but the kind of framework that they are built on are all different. Then if you read this particular, no, let me go back to the first page. Then the next important article, you can read this. Biden hosts Modi at home and ties closer and more dynamic than ever. And we are also signing this two countries are also working on a first semiconductor fabrication plant for national security, to joint collaboration of NSA and NASA and ISRO for onboarding of International Space Station. Then we are also signing agreements on critical mineral supply chains, then digital technologies in Asia and Africa. So you have a number of things that have been talked about here as well, and which is all these pointers are given here. For example, these advanced sensing, communication and power areas, and then you have this we are procuring this remotely piloted aircraft from US. And then you remember in terms of technology agreement, the Biden government has been really helpful. In fact, we have shifted, there has been a quite a technical shift in our relationship because of the coming of ISET, the initiative of critical and emerging technologies. Remember, this is because of Biden that in terms of technology we have had a very good relationship with the US now. So read about these two news. The first is this, and the other, as I was telling you, this is Wilmington Declaration, which talks about this peace in the entire region of Pacific Ocean, Indo-Pacific Ocean, and India is one of the littoral states of the Indo-Pacific region. So this is something that you need to read. Then the next important news, let's read this. This is something that you will all also see in both the international page as well as explain page. Now you just need to know the information that what has happened is someone from the left party, Anura Kumara Desai K, has basically won the election in Sri Lanka. Now Sri Lanka is another country which has been in turmoil for the last few years, and it had seen that domestic surge where, just like in Bangladesh, the sitting president was basically removed, and his house was ransacked a couple of years ago. You would have seen exactly the same pictures that we have seen in Bangladesh that are repeated in Sri Lanka as well. And he's someone from a very humble beginning, and then he's come on to become the president of Sri Lanka. Now what needs to be seen is that how does he work with India, and especially with the Marxist background. Will he prefer a close Chinese relationship over India's relationship, because ideologically a Marxist relationship is much more closer to the Chinese dispensation as compared to our kind of political framework. So this is the other news that you need to read. Then another important development with respect to crisis in center-state relationship is Bengal floods. Mamata writes to PM, withdraws state officials from Damodar Valley Corporation. Now you need to understand that how does this Damodar Valley Corporation work. Now first of all, you should be aware about this Damodar Valley Corporation. What is the river valley, the Damodar River Valley that it oversees, because the river flows from Jharkhand to Bengal, the southern part of Bengal. Now you have this Damodar Valley Reservoir Regulation Committee, where you have members from both Bengal as well as Jharkhand. Now what Mamata Banerjee has basically claimed is that without any consultation, usually what happens is you have consensus here. You can read it here that you need consensus here. Now typically any decision that has to happen is through consensus, because there is one chief engineer from Bengal and the other is from Jharkhand. And if there is water to be released, suppose, see what is happening. This is a water project, and this is basically a river water project. So if in the upper streams of the river there is a lot of flow of water that is coming, and the dam cannot store so much of water, so what will happen, it needs to notify to the littoral state, the riparian counterpart down the stream of the river, that we are going to release a lot of water, and therefore you should basically arrange for all disaster management activities. Now what the CM has written to PM is that instead of giving 9 hours of this thing, time frame, only 3.5 hours of notice was given, and then which basically led to this entire flood, and then 5 million people were basically have been affected because of the unilateral discharge of water that has flooded majority of the southern Bengal districts. So this is another area that you need to read on. Again, some issue with respect to center-state relation. Then wonderful news, and something that you should be aware about, is India's golden generation dazzles at the chess Olympiad. Now what has happened is that we have this men's and women's team in chess, and they have both won gold, individual as well as team gold. And in 2022 we had actually won bronze there. In 2020 we had won gold. So this is not the first time that we have won gold, but at the same point of time, what is special is that this time it is being led by the younger generation, people who are 18 years, 19 years, 21 years old. And this was happening in Budapest, and with D Gukesh, Arjun Irigasi, Divya Deshmukh, Varnitika Agarwal, all claiming these honors. And what is also special is that now the top 5 FID rankings, we have two Indians there as well. So this is you can read this news and see that how well India is doing. In fact, 2024 has been a major milestone for Indian chess, because 3 Indians are making the cut for the elite candidates tournament for the first time. And apart from that, our Pragananda had also defeated Magnus Carlsen for the first time this year in the Norway chess tournament. So this is basically being touted as the 1983 World Cup moment that happened. And you can also read about this from the fact that where is this? Yes. That what has also happened is that after 2020 we launched what is called as Global Chess League, and just like an IPL. And because of that, the money in the chess had increased, just like in IPL the money in cricket had increased. And because of that, again you saw a number of things growing in the interest growing in the chess circuit. So this is what IPL and other things do. Then apart from that, you can read one more. In fact, you need to read all the news, but we will cover this. Bangladesh clears export of 3,000 tons of Hilsa to India's Puja nears. So because of the Durga Puja, we there must be, I'm not very sure, but you can read about this, that during the Durga Puja time, the consumption probably of hilsa fish increases, and this hilsa fish is now being imported from Bangladesh. We have an agreement with Bangladesh, the informal agreement with Bangladesh. Typically, it does not export it to us, but during Durga Puja, because of the same affinity and the same culture, they always have exported some amount of hilsa to us, and this is what the government has also said, that we will export hilsa to India around 3 to 4 thousand tons this year as well. So you can read this particular news. The other news that you need to read by yourself is probably uncertainty in Dhaka Adani Goda plant seeks speedy link to Indian power grid. So you can read this news. Let's move forward to other areas. There is one more news article that I want you to read, which is, yes, India and US Inc. first pact for semiconductor fab for national security, next gen telecom, and also read about this drawing parallels with the Indo-US nuclear space. The fab titled Shakti. So you have already have titled this as Shakti or Power. Will be the first technology partnership with Indian business and the US Space Force, but also the first in Quad. And basically the other pillars apart from the semiconductor, the other pillars for modern war fighting, semi advanced sensing, advanced communication, advanced high voltage power communication, these have also been increasing. So again, as I told you, this glass ceiling has been broken because of ISET and commerce MOUs. This shows the depth of India and US relationship. Then deliverables from combating cancer to maritime security, you can read all these deliverables that are there. Then I told you that there is an initiative of Quad Moonshot initiative, which is basically on cervical cancer. Now if you're not aware about cervical cancer, maybe you can read about cervical cancer. Then the next news, okay, let's go through this particular news in our defense. Now every few years, what happens is that the prime minister basically hosts something called as combined commanders conference, and for the last few years, some years this was not being held, and it was also being touted as, at times, this commanders the commanders combined commanders conference was also given some kind of a political overturn, because see, typically if it's an if basically if the armed forces are being represented, it should not be in a convention center. It should ideally be in a in a military compound or a military conference hall. Now, the 2022 CCC, the Combined Commanders Conference, was held in Bhopal, and it was held in a convention center, and with a lot of posters of the Prime Minister and then of the Chief Minister, which gave it a political kind of a overtone. Now that is something that is best avoided, is what the article says. And then this time what has happened is that the defense minister has instituted a joint commanders conference now, which brings together all the top commanders of the Indian military for matters pertaining to national security and defense, and that is more on the lines of what we need from this particular conference. So this is the first part. The second part I've just told you. And then this JCC is a welcome forum for political leadership to meet the military commanders, and then see what are the needs of the military commanders. Now what is important is that this government has, in the last 10 years, made a number of initiatives and improved a lot of things in the military establishment, from the appointment of CDS. So if you're not aware about what CDS is, the highest position in the Indian military system, where a chief of defense staff is being appointed. However, it should be a 4-star rank position at times. a retired 3-star officer has also been put to this particular rank, which basically shows that political preferences have also been there in the appointment of CDS. Then apart from that, a number of reforms have taken place. For example, you have this one rank, one pension, which this government resolved, and now for each particular rank there is one particular pension that is there. Then apart from that, the government had focused a lot on Atmanirbharta in defense, and reducing the intensity of imports in our defense and increasing our exports. But at the same point of time, we have not achieved our strategic autonomy at all, and we are still dependent majorly on imports for our defense needs. Now, what is even more important is the modernization and acquisition in large gaps of inventory. Now, there was this standing committee on comprehensive review and standard committee on defense, which basically said that we should have one third of our equipment which should be of vintage category, basically very old category, one third should be of current category, and one third should be of state of art category. But right now, if you talk about Indian Army, it has 68% of its equipment in vintage, 24% as in the second category, which is current, and only 8% in the state of art. So this is major problem that our most of our defense equipment is quite old. When it comes to Air Force and Navy, again in Air Force we should have 24 fighter squadrons. We are only down to 32, and a lot of the among these 32 we have this old aircrafts of MiG-29 and MiG-21, which are again quite old. Not I mean as compared to the fifth generation aircraft that the adversary typically has. Then the capital expenditure again is going to be very expensive since the dollar has appreciated a lot. Then apart from that, even in terms of manforce, we are facing substantial shortage when it comes to the armed forces. Army itself, is lacking around 1.36 lakh personnel. So this is all that needs to be done in India's military dispensation. Then the other article, what Manipur needs. Now we've talked about this issue for the last 16 odd months, and then we've been talking about this for quite some time now. You should be aware about the fact that what is happening in Manipur. The two basically sects, which is the Kuki and the Maitis, and the fact that in the last 16 months not much has happened on the ground. In fact, what the government has done is it has basically appointed Kuldeep Singh, who's a former IPS, as the head of the Unified Command Center of Security Forces, and the Unified Command of Security Forces has basically created a parallel governance system as compared to the Biren Singh government. So the Biren Singh government has now become a puppet government. It has no power. It is just a nominal head, but the real power center is this Unified Command of Security Forces, and then it is running into clashes with the already running administration. Now, issues and confrontations in this part of the world is not new. We have had the Naga Kuki clash in 1992, the Meiteis Pongal clash in 1993, and then the Kuki Paite hostilities in 1997. So this region is very complex, and issues have been the same: allocation of land, reservations, access to resources, opportunities. But what it needs is a soft touch where all parties should come together and then meet all the representatives, all stakeholders, and then basically decide on that how to take this issue forward within the norms of the Indian Constitution. So this is what this article says. You can read it. If you want to read The Art of Making Peace, you can read that. Then first I will do this article, the GST grand, a grand GST bargain. Now we've been talking about this earlier as well. That what has happened is that we have something called as the GST compensation cess. Now try to understand first of all the meaning of a cess. Cess basically does not make part of, typically in the Indian Constitution, cess does not become, the cess and surcharge both do not become the part of the consolidated fund of India. So it does not, yes, it does not go into the consolidated fund of India. The government of India, the central government of India basically decides what to do with the cess. But this is a different kind of cess. This is a GST cess. Now, first of all, understand why the GST cess was imposed. Now, whenever we consume any sin good, demerit good, for example, if you consume, if you take a diesel car or a high-end car, luxury car, or say buy tobacco products, so all of this attract basically pan masala, SUVs, cigarettes, all these sin goods, luxury goods, demerit goods attract what is called as GST compensation cess. Now, the money that is collected in this cess was basically used to pay to different states for compensation. Now, why was this compensation first of all initiated? Now, in 2016, when the discussion of GST was happening, Arun Jaitley basically brought all the states together and said that you give up your power of taxing commodities and you come within the purview of GST Council. So basically, he said that we will take your autonomy of taxing and we will make a GST council, and that GST council we will make certain decisions together and which will be implemented for the entire country. Now, some states and most of these states said that, see, you are going to take going to take our power to tax. So what if our revenue reduces? So what if today by taxing on my own I'm getting 100 rupees, tomorrow because GST is implemented, tomorrow what if I get 80 rupees? So what Arun Jaitley had promised all these states is that between 2017, July of 2017, when GST was implemented, till 2022, if there is any reduction in the revenues, for example, he promised in fact 14% increase in the revenues. For example, say a state like Uttar Pradesh was earning say 100 rupees from indirect taxes in 2016. So the government said, the central government said that okay, we will promise you 114 rupees, 14% extra in the first year. Similarly, 14% more in the second year and the third year. For 5 years, we will say that every year your revenues will increase by 14% of the previous year. Now, and if it does not, suppose we had promised UP 114 rupees and they only got 107 rupees, this 7 rupees deficit will be given by the central government. And to where to get that money for compensation will be from the GST compensation cess. Now, this was the agreement till 2022. But what had happened was, because of COVID, the entire revenues of the states collapsed, but we had promised 14%. So the center basically said to the states that okay, you borrow money from me, and the interest, whatever the interest will be there on that borrowing, we will service that interest through the GST compensation cess. So I hope I'm clear that now instead, because during the time of COVID, instead of getting 100 rupees, you were getting 50 rupees. So the government basically allowed the state governments to borrow 50 rupees, and the interest was to be paid through the compensation cess, and which was extended till the March of 2026. Now, since the money in the compensation cess is now quite huge, the government is saying that by January of 2026 we'll finish up everything. We'll finish up the entire loan amount. We will pay the entire thing, and we'll be left with certain surplus. Now, one is that what needs to be done with this surplus. The second issue is that what will happen after this. You cannot reduce the taxation on these demerit goods. So what will be the way forward? And it is being argued by Aditi Nair in this article that, see, right now petroleum products are not under GST. Now, if you want all the states to come under GST and you want all the petroleum products to come under GST, then you need to negotiate with the states and say that we will give you money from compensation cess, but you need to bring this GST amount, you need to bring GST in petroleum products, POL products as well. So this is what this article says. It's a very, very important article for you to read. Then another article, which is the perception of justice. Now this is, I suppose, Sai Deepak is basically targeting the Indian judiciary as well. Now, what he says is, and he writes in a very complicated manner, so if you don't understand it, that's completely okay. But what he tries to write in this particular article is that one needs to be aware of the fact that there is going to be there are public institutions, there are political institutions, there are media. So you have different pillars of democracy that are there. But the most important pillar of democracy is basically the institutions, the unelected institutions like the Supreme Court, like the Election Commission of India. These are all called bulwarks of the Constitution. The Supreme Court, UPSC, Election Commission of India, High Court. All these are important because every other institution, for example, the media. Now, media is again under a global scale of information pandemic where you need to churn stories one after the other. So it's very difficult for media and the entire media or newspapers or whatever journalists to basically I mean secure the constitutional mandate that is there of a healthy democracy. So for a healthy democracy, you cannot completely trust media. Similarly, you cannot completely trust say any other institution as well, or even political parties. So one of the only ways left through which you can have democracy and the effectiveness of democracy is through this thing, your independent and constitutional bodies, and which to they should discharge their activities, and they are watchdogs, and later in spirit of the the national constitution. So all this needs to be done there. And he gives the example, and this example you can note because TN Session has always been the example of someone who holds constitution in the face. So read about why TN Session, who was the chief election commissioner, why was he so famous, and what did he do in the election commission of India that made him so immortalized in terms of preserving independence, impartiality, and integrity in the eyes of public. So you can read this, and I think this is kind of a shot on the Chief Justice of India and that entire issue. Also, guys, we've not been reading the newspaper for 3-4 days. There is another issue in on the ethics side, which is of the death of and the suicide of that individual who was from Anna Perez, who was from Ernst and Young, and the issue with respect to the work profile in Big Four and the corporate culture. So you need to read about all of that because that's an important development. Then apart from that, there is one more news that I want you to read, which is pro farmer turn in edible oils. Now, you should be aware of the fact that India imports a lot of its edible oil. Now, in fact, more than 50% of our edible oil is imported from outside. Now, what has happened is in the last 2 weeks, the government of India has taken a number of decisions. For example, it has hiked the basic custom duty on imported crude palm, soybean, and sunflower oil from 0% to 20% for palm oil, and for refined oils from 12.5% to 32.5%. So basically, whenever you are imposing an import duty, you are basically saying that we don't want imports from outside. And what you have also done internally is you raised the MSP, the minimum support price. So you are giving an impetus to the farmer that, boss, we are going to give you a lot of money. You plant all these items. You plant soybean, you plant your sunflowers, you plant other things, and palms, and then we don't want to import from outside, we will buy from you. So this is the first time that we have seen after 2020, because in 2020 what had happened is, because if you see this March of 2020, what had happened is because of the Russia Ukraine war, and a lot of this oil basically comes from this area, especially the sunflower oil comes from Ukraine and Russia. Soybean oil typically comes from Argentina, Argentina and Brazil, and your palm oil basically comes from Indonesia and Malaysia. So what had happened is, because of the crisis in the Russia-Ukraine war, if you see, the prices were very high, and because now this issue has been more or less, I mean, at least we know about this issue, the prices have all reduced. And because the prices have all reduced, we don't want huge amount of import burden from us, and therefore initially we had reduced the taxes, but now we are increasing the taxes because we don't want imports. We want from pro consumer, where stance is changing to pro producer, and we have already raised the MSP in all these areas. So and you should also be aware of the fact that which are the major producing states for sunflower oil, for soybean oil, and the palm oil as well, and what are the initiatives that government has taken for all these areas. So read about all of this. And then other article that I want you to read is why Azerbaijan's new climate fund may not be enough to plug the finance gap. Now there was this idea about this COP 29, and the this year's host of COP 29 is Azerbaijan, Baku, where you had this voluntary contributions which will not be enough. So read about this area and what is this agreement on finance, as well as this new cumulative quantitative goal of finance, which will not be sufficient for the countries. So read about this, it's an important news. And with this we end our entire article. But another news that you need to read about is MOSPI to release monthly labor force data for rural and urban areas. You need to read this. We don't have time today for this. And then India's data center ambitions will have to go through Malaysia and Japan. The other news is this. So these two news I'm leaving for you. Yeah, you can read these two news. So with this we end our today's newspaper, and we will meet tomorrow at 5:30, folks. Thank you very much. See you. Bye bye.